because this always happens whenever I do this in YouTube. I start the stream, I don't know when it's actually going to go live, and then I just sit for the first couple of minutes just looking at the camera and clicking away, and then it turns out that it was streaming the entire time. So this time I'm actually just starting out from the beginning, and whether it caught it or not, that's alright. Hey Chris, how's it going? Thanks for joining me. So I have some good news. Well, first off, I was thinking we could make this a Q&A session, so as always there is a live chat window below this area here, and if you type into it, we can talk and chat while that's going on. So Chris, thank you for joining me. If you have any questions that you want to talk about or any topics, let's talk. And then I also, well, thank you for joining me. Thanks so much. It's always so nice to do this because I actually get to talk to all of you guys that I interact with you on a regular basis. I am not sponsored by GoPro. If I was sponsored by GoPro, there's a lot of ways to end that sentence. But no, I think part of it is in sea kayaking, there's not enough, I don't know, adrenaline and coolness factor in what I'm doing for now, where, no, I think it's more of whitewater, waterfall running, or long explorations, which I'm doing none of those things. What I'm doing is what most people do. It's go paddling on the weekends, and once in a while I take a nice trip and I get to explore. So I don't think GoPro is really in that area for me. However, I did just become an ambassador for another camera, which I am very excited to share. So actually that's a great segue to what this is. So the reason I had been thinking about this was when I went to the Sumidero Canyon a couple of weeks ago in Mexico. I took the drone with me, and it was amazing to have the drone with me. Chris, I'm looking for a cheaper 4K quality action camera without the GoPro cost. Let's see what you got. There's actually a bunch of other ones. I can't remember what it's called right now, but I can look into it and get back to you. There's one that's one of the direct competitors that just came out, I believe, with 4K at 60 frames per second, which I think is the first one to do that. I don't think the GoPro 5 does it. And in any case, the price is so much lower than GoPro that it might be worth trying. I think that might be it. It's definitely one of the. No, I can't remember. I really can't believe. I'll look it up and I'll send you a note on that. But some of the things I've heard about that one is that the casing on the GoPro, from the reviews that I've read, I have absolutely no way of knowing. What I do know is, no, I don't think so. It was something with a Y. I think it started with a Y in the name. But from what I've read is that the GoPro casing and the GoPro accessories are much stronger, and most people haven't had any problems with them, where with this other, not knockoff, but a competitor, some people complained that the waterproof casing was just not up to par with it. And all I can say is from the 3 GoPros that I've used the 3, 3 Plus, and 4. The casing and absolutely all of everything has always worked really well, and I beat the crap out of those cameras. They get slammed around constantly, and they've always been good. But I have absolutely no association with GoPro. It's just, what I really liked is that once you have some of the adapters and other things, you could just continue using the same thing over and over. Lucas, gracias por estar conmigo. Bienvenido. I think that's the one. I think that's one. Is that the Chinese brand, Chris? ¿Qué tal, Daniel? Okay, now that I have a bunch of you guys, let me unbox this, because especially Daniel in particular, when we were in the canyon, I'm used to my small SLR. I want a small camera that still has some controls, maybe a viewfinder, and take splashes and short submersion. Maybe also with the lens I can change So, Bam Lunker. What I would recommend looking into is the Nikon Aw1. For a long time, I had been looking at that one. Nikon went into making those. What it is, it's a waterproof camera with waterproof lenses. I think they only made 2 or 3 lenses in total, and the entire thing is waterproof, splash proof. You can dive with the camera, and it's set up in a way that even if you have wet fingers or if you're underwater, you can still tilt it and use some of the controls to be able to shoot underwater and get it splashed. I was thinking about that for a long time, but it's expensive. It's around, I think, $700. And I had been saving money for that for a long time, and then that's when both GoPro and DJI came out with the foldable drones, and all of that went out the window, and then the money I had saved for a year for a waterproof camera went into the drone instead. But anyway, let me go back to this camera. While we were in the canyon, a couple of us had GoPros. I had my my Sony a6300 with me, and we had the drone, so we were able to get some really awesome footage. But what I'm noticing, well, the drone, the footage is absolutely incredible. But what I'm noticing that I wish, and when I got back, I was talking to some of my coworkers and my wife, and we were just discussing how immersive video, especially with things like that, and I was thinking, I wish I had a way to take people with me, because the thing is, Daniel, the price, I know, right? Bam Lunker's saying, oh my god, the price. Right, it's $700. It's crazy. It's super expensive. But at least look at it, because some of the functionality that it has is exactly that. It has a small lens, it has a zoom lens, I think it has a wide-angle lens, a zoom lens, and all of them are waterproof. Anyway, ¿para cuándo viajar para Argentina? En cuanto antes me encantaría ir, especialmente porque tengo familia, pero el problema es que cuando voy a visitar Argentina tengo que pasar mucho tiempo porque tengo que ir a ver la familia. Entonces necesito conseguirme un mes entero de vacaciones, no puedo solamente irme por un poquito de tiempo, y hace muchísimo que no voy y tengo que ir a ver la familia. Así que algún día pronto. Okay, so anyway, so then I came back to the US and I kept thinking, how can I make this more immersive? Because I'm going to put together a really great video. Well, I mean, I'm going to put a video that I'm going to be very happy about, and hopefully it looks good, but that's going to try to share our experience, the 4 of us paddling through this canyon. And I kept thinking, man, I wish there was another way of doing that. And so then I got to talking with a couple of people, and the idea of this came up. So then I reached out to a couple of companies, and one of them decided to work with me, so I've become an ambassador for this brand, and I am going to test this on the next time I go out. And it just makes me think, I wish I had this with me when I was down in Mexico, because check this out. Alright, if I can just do this. So this is the 360 Fly 360 VR camera. And so, Daniel, imagine if we had this with us in the canyon, we could have put this on the bow or stern of our kayak and just had it with us, and then made a video that people then can put on either goggles, or they could just, with either on their phone. I know, I need to come back. We're just going to have to test the camera, right? I mean, that's the main reason. But this is waterproof, this is shockproof, it's sandproof, all of those proofs, and it's in 4K. So when you shoot this guy, what you get is, it's a 360 video. So it doesn't shoot absolutely everywhere. It goes up to a certain point because it has only one lens on the top. Fernando, you love 360 videos. I'm just starting to learn about them, really. And I kept thinking, I would love to have a way. I mean, the thing is, you can't really edit between regular videos and 360 videos. But I would love for some of these trips, like when we went to the canyon, It does look like a snow globe. I should actually open it. But what I would love is to make a video that we're all used to. So with GoPros and the regular camera, the SLR, and, well, mirrorless, I guess in this case, and the drone. So really nice looking video with all of our normal things we're used to. But then also put out a short video that just has an immersive feel, so that what happens too is you see everything through the lenses that you're seeing, but you're not really there. You're only seeing whatever us as videographers are choosing to show you, and we go and we edit and we use only the little clips we want. And half the time you don't see what we're doing while we're shooting. Or I just thought it'd be so interesting to have with me something so that, oh wow, this is extremely well packaged. Something with me so that as I'm sitting in my kayak paddling, it almost feels as if you're there with us. So that's what this camera will probably do. So look at the size of this. It's absolutely incredible. There we go. So see, what I was saying before is it'll shoot 360 degrees around in this around this axis, and then it'll cut off at at a certain point on the bottom, so you see absolutely everything above this. So this would be perfect for sitting on our kayak, because you would see, let's say this is in front of me in the bow, you would see, if you want to, you can move the video and see where I'm going. You can look back at me as I'm paddling. You can look up and to the sides, and you pretty much control the entire thing as the Magic 8 Ball. It looks exactly like it, right? But the thing is, when I was researching about it, I can't believe how small this is. Look, here's a GoPro, and then here is the 360 Fly 4K. It is just so small. So very cool. Yeah, I know. I will see. I can't wait to test it. I'm going to start doing some test videos. I'm super excited to try it. But what's interesting about these guys is everything that we're used to is out the door, because, for example, when we made it to where we were camping for the night, at one point the three of us were all taking pictures together because it was beautiful and we couldn't help ourselves. I mean, we have cameras with us, we're going to be taking pictures. And so then we're setting up the photos exactly how we want. But with this guy, you really can't hide from what's happening. Whatever is happening at that moment, it captures everything. Do you need VR glasses to watch it? No, you don't need VR glasses. So you have the choice of, on YouTube, and I think Facebook does this too, if you upload a video to them, you can select one or the other. And then if you're watching it with the VR glasses, which in a lot of cases all it is you take your phone, you put it into a really cheap device that just hooks it up to your face, and then as you move your head around, you can look around in every direction. Or on a desktop and on your phone, with the desktop you use the cursor, on the phone you use your finger, and then you can actually move your perspective as you move around in the video. So that's super interesting. I was actually, while I was doing research, that's what I was researching, how someone that doesn't have goggles, if they can enjoy it. And I watched a couple of videos and it seemed super fun. Bamlunker, file size. I don't know yet. I will be testing and I'll let you know as soon as I have some info on that. But it does shoot at 4K, which I think it has to do with the quality, but I know that because it is a circular 360 movie, from the research I was doing, the numbers of pixels in what it shoots, it's slightly different. So it's not the usual 4K that we're used to. It winds up being a square footage that then looks like a circle, and then you can convert that to what gets uploaded ultimately into YouTube and Facebook. I cannot remember. It's some long term, and it's what it is. It's the full long strip that then YouTube puts it all together into one seamless 360 video. Bjork has a great 360 video. I haven't seen that one yet, but that is something I definitely want to check out because I really like her. Okay, so let me think. What else can I say about the camera? So it comes with a 1/4-inch adapter on the bottom. It looks like I need to get pliers to get this off. So you can mount this on any kind of tripod. But what I'm going to do is I have my usual suction cup tripods that I use on my kayak. And then I have a ram mounting part that has a 1-inch rubber ball on one side, and then on the other side it has a regular screw that I can put any kind of regular camera on it. So that's what I'm going to use. 4K, it's not even usable for most people. Don't have 4K capable TVs and laptops. You are correct. However, shooting at 4K has been really excellent because especially when you, for example, when you're shooting with a GoPro, and a lot of times you have no, especially when you're on the kayak, you have no idea what you're shooting. But if you're shooting at 4K and you're trying to catch something, let's say an action shot, someone surfing nearby or someone doing something cool in the kayak, and you're just hoping for the best. You're either holding the camera with you or it happens to be mounted on your kayak. If you're shooting 4K, then you can crop into what you want to use, and then it's salvageable and it's still amazing quality because ultimately I'm uploading 1080K to YouTube. I might start doing 2.7K. Sorry, not 1080K. 1080p. Just regular 1080 is what I usually upload to YouTube. But shooting 4K, it sucks because it takes up so much memory, and also when I'm using the Sony, the a6300. This is really funny. Shooting at 4K gives me the ability to then crop in or then reuse however I want. And the quality of downsizing from 4K to 1080 is superb. And yes, on my laptop, it does really make a difference. It's just really nice to have the ability of shooting at that high quality and then doing whatever you want afterwards with it. If you're just joining now, thank you for joining. Thank you for being here with us. Down below, there should be a chat room so that we can talk the way we're talking with all these guys that are joining me right now. And thank you so much for being here with me. So, let me see. Anything else I can say about this camera? So another thing that I thought was really interesting is that it's really, really new. Okay, thanks. What's the minimum video quality you would ever go for? 1080, 60 frames per second. Yes, 1080, 60 frames per second. If you saw recently, I put out a surf video where Daniel is surfing in Mexico. All of the slow motion video that is shooting from his bow onto him. So when you see, does that have some waterproof depth rating? William Turner is asking. Yes, as is, it can be dropped into up to 30 feet of water, and then they make a diving housing that you can put on top of it if you wanted to go and actually do real diving. So the guy that I've been exchanging information with a lot from the company, Glenn mentioned that he uses it for surfing and paddleboarding, and as is, you can use it. Dashlog, thank you for joining. But okay, hold on. Let's go back to Chris's question. 1080, 50, 60 frames per second. So Daniel's video when he was surfing in Mexico that I just put out a couple of days ago, we had 2 GoPros and the drone shooting at him, and so. I know, right? It's just when questions come in, it's very hard to not just jump onto something else. But so there were 2 GoPros shooting and the drone. The drone was shooting at 4K, same thing, because I wanted the ability to crop in if at any point I realized, oh no, I didn't focus enough or whatever. I like to be able to crop in on something that I might have missed, so 4K for the drone. And then the 2 GoPros we had going was a GoPro 4, that was mine on Daniel's bow pointing at him, and then his helmet cam is his GoPro 5. The GoPro 4 at 60 frames per second, the best it does is 1080. and then we were shooting on his 5 at 2.7K, because that can shoot at 60 frames per second too. Because I love the 60 frames per second, in my opinion, is a wonderful amount to then be able to slow down. And so all the slow motion parts of that video were shot at 60 frames per second, and then I slowed it down 40% on my 24 frames per second timeline. And yes, sir, Daniel, 2.7K for your GoPro 5. And I like that feeling, especially when someone is trying to catch waves or the way water splashes. Sure, slower can look cooler, but in my experience, 60 frames per second is more than slow enough to make it look really epic and cool. And I knew that at that point, I'm not going to zoom in. 1080 is good enough. And it looked... What sucks is when you upload to YouTube, it does lose a lot of the quality. So the file that I have exported on my laptop looks so much better than what you see on YouTube. But nothing we can do about that. The only thing I could do is try to export at a higher rate, which means I would export at 2.7K and then upload to that, and then see if YouTube would either play it at 2.7 or they would compress it down, and I don't know if I want to deal with that. Frames per second doesn't reflect on sharpness though. On the GoPro, I'd say 60 frames per second, it still looks really damn good. But only shoot 60 frames per second if you know there's a big chance you're going to slow it down. Otherwise, shoot at 24 or 30. I usually like shooting at 30. I feel like that feels right for when it comes to action stuff, but then 24 feels very cinematic and interesting, so it's always a struggle to decide if you're going to shoot at 30 or 24. It's really up to you. It's your preference. Do whatever you'd like. But if your timeline is in 24 frames per second and you happen to shoot at 60 frames per second, when you slow it down to at least 40%, it looks epic, and that's just a really nice calculation. Because my hero does 720 at 60 and it still sucks. True, but here's part of the problem with 720 is a lot of times, which heroes do you have, which GoPro do you have? William Turner, is there any problems editing the videos from this cam or special software needed to edit? Do you mean the 360 camera? If that's the case, this is the 360 Fly 4K. The 360 Fly provides you with software to be able to. I haven't tried it yet. I'm going to download everything and then I'll be able to explain a little more. But I know for sure they provide software that you're able to then download all the files from the camera and then set them up and edit in a basic way so that you can upload straight to YouTube or anywhere you want to share your stuff. I think it's very similar to the software that GoPro shares, where it's more than good enough to do really, really great video stuff. But if you want to do more advanced stuff like color grading, where you're actually using presets that are made for professional filmmaking, I'd say at that point you want to use other types of software. I know that the latest version of Final Cut Pro and Premiere Pro both can handle 360 video, and I'm delighted because I use Premiere Pro, so that's what I'm going to be using. I'm going to use their software, I believe it's called Director. I'm going to be using that to download all the files and see what I need to do with that, and then I'm going to import into Premiere, which is what I use, and then do my usual color grading and do all of the other things that I like doing to my videos on my own. Okay, the original, the first one. Okay, so the GoPro, the original one. So the problem with the original one with slow motion is there's two things that usually suck about using slow motion, especially in the earlier models, is that in order to get the slower, it can only process a certain amount of information. So therefore, winds up being smaller. Because it's smaller, you're using less of the sensor. And by using less of the sensor, you are then stretching it out to fill that 1080 because we usually like watching things in at least 1080. And it doesn't look as good because what happens too, and this happens across all of them, is, let's say this is a sensor, the square, right? If you look online, you can actually find drawings of people have actually mapped this out on the sensor to show you what part and how much of the sensor you use for every type of setting. So let's talk about one that has the 4K sensor. For a 4K sensor, what's nice about that is then you can use, if you use 1080, you're actually using a little part of the middle of that sensor. So you wind up having more of a narrow field of view because you're using the middle of the lens as well. And the same thing happens in the first one, is if you're using the entire sensor, you get a nice crisp image. And then as you go down in quality, it's not like you're using the entire sensor and it's just getting less information. It's just using less and less and less of that sensor. So then when you stretch the image afterwards to fill up what you're using on your video, it never looks as good. So I usually recommend, if you can, just shoot in whatever will let you, but stay within that 1080 because at least you'll get a 1:1 pixel to video ratio of when you finish. You're not stretching anything, and that sucks at first, but at least you'll get better quality. If you really need to do the slow motion, then I think ways to make it look the best is then use lighting and use your takes to the best possible scenarios. So do it only when you have perfect lighting. Do it only when you are pointing in the right direction so that you can get the best possible outcome of shooting at 720. Let me see, what am I missing? Found a guy who sells Chinese knockoffs type cams for 140 Canadian. They're 4K at 30 capable. That might be worth a try. I know that Dashlock, thank you. So she said, excellent explanation. So because the reason I came across that, and I shot an event. This was a couple of days on the water, and I used to hate the wide-angle view on my camera. This is the one that I used to use all the time. It's the Hero 3, and I really didn't like the super wide angle. So they give you 3 options. You can go wide, you can go medium, you can go narrow. And I always used to shoot in medium, and I didn't understand what I was doing at that time. And what I was doing was, when you go wide, you're using the entire sensor. When you go medium, you're using less of the sensor, and that's why it looks less wide. You're actually using less of the sensor, and then when you go narrow, you're using even less. So that means the amount of information you're catching is way, way less. So you are degrading the quality of what you're capturing by choosing those settings. So then what I did is I just started shooting always in wide, and if I want to, I'll crop afterwards, but I always start with as much information as I can. So if you can, slow motion, it's not really something I'm looking for. So then don't worry about that. If you can shoot at 1080, keep shooting with what you have. Don't worry about slow-mo. Can you shoot at 60? All right. So even if you shot at 30 and then did your timeline in 24, that little bit will give you a little bit of a slow motion if you really wanted to slow it down. Okay, any other questions with sensors, GoPros, etc.? Any questions on the 360? I can't answer a lot of them just yet, other than what I've researched and what I know so far. I'm supposed to be getting some info packets on this little camera, and I cannot wait to see what it'll do out on the water. As always, guys, thank you so much for tuning in and hanging out with me. I'm thinking of maybe doing these, if I can, weekly. It could just be, how long has it been on? Oh my god, it's been a half hour already. I talk way too much. But I'd like to, the price on the 360. So they have a couple of different levels of it. I believe they have one for 300 and one for 500. The 300 one shoots at 1080, 360, and then I believe the 4K, which is this one, runs at 500 for 360 at 4K. I'm pretty sure that's it, and if I'm wrong, I'll go on the website and I'll post later on a link to it with the real price if I got that wrong. But I'm thinking of doing these Q&As, just picking a topic each week. This time was camera. And then just having whoever joins me come in for a chat. The tough thing is a lot of friends that I talk to online happen to be in Europe and in other places in Australia, and so the time zones never really work. And the only time I can really do it is usually in the evenings after the baby goes to sleep. So then I'm not going to be able to hang out with a lot of people that I would be able to hang out with during the day. But then people that are closer to my time zones, maybe you are just hanging out before going to bed, tired from a long work day, and can join me and talk for a little while, and we can nerd out on gear, technique, whatever it is you guys want to talk about. But as always, thank you for joining me. There is a chat room down below if you'd like to say anything else before we wrap it up. Chris, let's see. Did you ever check out my drumming video that I emailed to you? No, I'm so sorry. I completely forgot. I know I have that. I will look it up and I will check that out for sure. Yes, I'm so sorry. And another thing that I wanted to mention that I haven't done yet, which I am a bad person for doing this, but it's going to be soon. This is my drone. This is my Phantom 3 Standard, which is packaged and ready to go out the door. With the trip and with how crazy work has been these last 2-3 weeks, it's just been absolutely insane, and I haven't been able to send this out. This is going out, and I can't wait to have it arrive so that I can hear of all the adventures it's having without me. I don't know much about Kayak, so the most compelling videos for me showcase the location and connect you with the adventure. You want to feel along for the ride. Exactly, Fernando. That's exactly what I was thinking about when I thought about this and I reached out to companies. We had such an amazing experience in the canyon, and I don't know how to explain it. I just thought it's one of those things, because the thing is, we go paddling every weekend if we can. We go paddling nearby. We've driven to lots of different places nearby, and it always feels like, you know, I'll be back. I'll be back here. I'll be back there. This was great. But when I was in the canyon with Rafa, Dani, and Daniel, I really was thinking, I know I will be coming to Mexico again someday, but I wonder if I'll ever come back to the canyon, because it was absolutely incredible. But it made me think there's so many other places that we need to go to and explore. And I just kept thinking, I wish I could bring this back with me, not only to share with other people, but just to remember it for myself. And there was just something so incredible about craning your neck all the way up and then still not seeing the top of every single spot. It was so massive, and it just really made me think, if I had one of these, maybe I would be able to share that experience, because on the GoPro, with that crazy wide angle, everything looks just tiny, and you just don't get that feeling. And maybe this will get it, maybe it won't, because this is also going to be super wide angle, but at least you're able to move things around and you can look at it yourself. So it would be immersive, and maybe it would be as if you're along for the ride. And so that means for the next trip, I'm going to really test that out. In August, I will be going to Norway and visiting some really great internet friends and making them real friends, just like what happened in Mexico, which was absolutely amazing. It feels like online dating for kayaking without any of the weird stuff. It was just awesome right from the beginning. But I'm hopeful that in the fjords, it's just going to be similar to that same that same feeling that we had in the canyon. That it was astounding. I had never seen, being in the northeast of the U.S. I've seen some really beautiful places, but I had never seen something that epic before, and it was just awesome. And I'm hopeful a camera like this will help me share that experience with others, and also document it in a way that I can continue reliving that moment. Chris, I might just look for a good 360 camera instead of a regular action cam. Seems like it's the future of videography. You know, I feel like it might be the future. I really don't know if it will be or not. But I'm definitely willing to at least try it out and see if that is the case. I know the drone for sure is changing everything. First, I couldn't believe how easy it was to take the Mavic with me, and then some of the footage I was able to get from it, I'm really upset that I have a lot of projects going on right now, and I haven't been able to edit any of that footage from Mexico yet. And it's just incredible that we're able to capture that ourselves as regular consumers and then keep that. And then if this winds up being the future of videography, that's really exciting too. I think an immersive situation will be one thing I didn't mention before that I really wanted to get into. I'll just take a minute. It's very interesting, and all the research I was making is people don't really understand how to deal with 360 videos yet. Meaning, the editing is supposed to be the same, but if you're trying to make movies, if you're trying to make things, it's a weird way of doing it, because it said, for example, people were saying, if you're trying to shoot a scene, there's a very specific way you need to shoot because it makes people look really weird, and if you hold it at eye level, it makes everybody very distorted, but if you put it at the floor, it looks like you're 2 feet tall, and you can't really get a sense of the size of anything. And then at the same time, one of the things that makes it easy when you're shooting is you're always behind the camera, but with these, anybody that's in the production is in the frame the entire time, because if the user just does this or turns their head, they're just looking right back at you the entire time. So I think this might be the future of video when it comes to things like what we do. If you're out on the water, if you're doing experiences where you're hiking, you're camping, you're outdoors, where you really want to give the viewer the opportunity to crane their necks and just look around the same way you did when you were there, because it's not about you being in the picture, it's about them sharing that same experience the same way you are seeing it, which makes it interesting. Because then I've also been thinking about, is it going to be strange to have this at a low point on the deck of the kayak versus my viewpoint up here, or should I put it at a higher place so that it feels like you are sitting in the kayak with me? So that's another thing that I'm going to be thinking about. Green Lake Kayak Fest and plans ever. Yes, there are several Greenland festivals going on right now. Tracks, I think it just wrapped up in Florida in the U.S. There is going to be in May, it's going to be Tips, I believe, in South Carolina. Sticks out in the Northwest, which I'm going to. My wife and I will both be flying out to Portland, and we will be going to Sticks. And then there's going to be the Hudson River Greenland Festival in New York, which I'm also going to be attending. And then Delmarva in October in Delaware, which, if everything goes well, I will be attending that one as well. So it's absolutely awesome. The Royal Bureau. I created my first 360 video earlier in the year. It is tricky to put together and for people to learn how to view them, especially with Google Cardboard. There is a learning curve just for the user if they have no experience. I agree completely, and actually, would you mind sending me a link? I would love to take a look at it, and then I'd love to learn more about what you've discovered that way. I'm very excited to try it out. We'll see how it goes, and I'm also very interested to see what editing in that scenario is like. Do I start the video and then say to the camera, this is a 360 video, use your finger or move your head? to explore the scene with me. I think I might just have to do that in the very first or second video just to explain them, and then maybe it'll come across later. But Chris, you also asked, how did you control the drone while paddling? I was wondering about that. Okay, I did not. What was happening is I was actually on the beach the entire time. So when Danielle was surfing, I was in one of the little huts. Actually, in the last pull away shot, you see a couple of little straw huts that people were just hanging out in the shade. I was under one of those, controlling the drone the entire time. And when we were in the canyon, there were a couple of times before people got ready to go, or when we were landing, that I got out of the kayak, got the drone ready, and then shot video while they were still in the water, or I had them get into the water first. I shot some video with them, and then I put everything away, got in the kayak, and went. I don't feel skilled enough yet to launch, control from the kayak, and land in the kayak. I have been doing hand launches and hand catches, but I don't want to add to that also the motion of the water just yet. I think conditions need to be absolutely perfect to try that. But for now, I'm still just doing everything from land. I shoot and I put everything away. I know it's coming at some point, but we'll see. Anyway, that's 40 minutes of me yakking away. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, it's a pleasure to actually be able to talk to you guys for a change, because a lot of times I'm just talking right at the camera, and then to be able to have questions in person is just so much more fun. I'm going to try to make this a weekly thing if I can. I'll come up with a topic that we can chat about, and then if you happen to be around, tune in. Always a great time to chat with you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, Luke Rome for Kayak Hipster. I'll see you guys next time.